Shazam, issue 20. SINA Grace writing with Dan McDaid on the art. So this is just one issue off for Josie Campbell. She's back next issue. So this is kind of a little one-shot of a Shazam story. It's an interesting one. It's basically Shazam's dealing with something, or the Captain's dealing with something, and because of something the dinosaur does, so it's still very much in continuity here, where it's the current status quo of the characters. But the dinosaur dealing with something as they're fighting this like villain, this fairy, the Perry.
It's a djinn. So, you know,
a djinn, yes, that's it.
Yeah,
it was like a djinn. But as they're dealing with that, and there's a whole thing with a mirror where the lightning sparks through the sky, and it just happens to hit John Kent, who's flying over the top of Philadelphia, and it turns him into a child. So that's what the plot of this issue is. It's like, wait, John Kent's a kid again, and the Captain has to help him, and it's kind of an excuse to like have them work together, have them, you know, kind of bond with them. And they take him back to their house, and he hangs out with all the kids. They take him out for a day at the fair. It's kind of like remember that issue of the Stephanie Brown Batgirl where Steph like takes Damian to do a bunch of kid stuff because he's never been a kid. Yeah. It's kind of that same idea where they're like, hey, you grew up too fast. They even reference him spending half of his life in a volcano. So they're like, hey, you grew up too fast. Take a day off. Let's go be kids. And they even like have him sleep over with all the other kids in their normal, you know, kid forms. I like. The art here's okay. I will critique it though when they're in their normal civvies and their pajamas, because there's a girl there that I think has to be Mary, but she looks like she's younger than all the other characters, which is really weird. She's the one that's meant to be 18.
She's in college?
Yeah, she's meant to be an adult basically now, and she looks younger than Freddy. Also Pedro looks way different than normal.
We've been over this every time. It feels like we're beating a dead horse, but McDaid's style I don't think it's for either of us.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, but,
and it, you know, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think they are decent enough when they're adults and the outfits. I think it's just when they're all kids, all of a sudden, some of the proportions feel off. Some of the faces feel like they're very different to normal.
Well, even like Mr. Dinosaur, the proportions are off, and you know, it's just not that I didn't enjoy reading it, but the art is definitely not it in this issue. Because even like
the art's the weaker part of the issue for sure.
Yeah, because even when they get to Damian, and Damian looks off, right? Like Damian looks a lot younger than we've seen.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, to get to that, so basically, John's ignoring calls from Jay because he doesn't want to have to explain this. And he's like, I don't really want to tell anyone I know what's happened to me, except maybe one person, actually. And they go and see Damian because, you know, Damian's his best friend and they were kids together and so on. And Damian, to like John's surprise, is kind of like, no, this is terrible. Why do you want to be a kid again? It was awful. We're adults now. And I'm like, Damian, no, you're not. Shut up. But that's kind of his attitude. I guess the heartwarming thing here was more that Billy is like kind of geeking out because Damian's his favorite Robin and wants to try and not be lame in front of him. That was kind of amusing. I appreciated that a little bit.
I was like, all right, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna ask for the selfie, right? And I just love that the bubble is so much smaller than normal, right? So it's like he's saying it under his breath.
Yeah. No, that's all fun. The Jin character reappears. There's a quick fight scene with him dealing with her. But the end of the issue is basically that he finally accepts to call in Jay, and Jay obviously is kind of amused by it and just feels bad that he wasn't willing to tell him. But the solution ends up being, because he asks, okay, well, how did this happen? What went on? And he eventually just says, have you tried saying Shazam? And they all sort of look around like idiots, being like, why didn't we think of that? Why didn't we just think of having him say Shazam? And sure enough, he says Shazam and he turns back into an adult. All hugs and whatnot. Although Mary Marvel does point out something, a really good point here. And she says, wait, how did this guy Jay know how we transform? And they just kind of like, oh, we'll just have to accept that. But I mean, part of me wants to critique it and say they're covering like a little, like, not a plot hole, but like you know, he shouldn't know that. But
he shouldn't. However, he was a protege of Lois Lane.
Yeah, he does investigate things. Yeah, it's a whole thing. Like
he ran the truth. His mom was the president of a country, so who knows where the files on all the superheroes are there, right?
Yeah,
You
like
know?
it's plausible enough to a point. I did enjoy the line from Mary, but it also does kind of feel like maybe it's just like covering up why you would know that. But so John speaks to Kid Billy. He asks him to change into the kid so he can sort of thank him, and tells him not to grow up too fast and remember that the adults can take care of some stuff. And the issue ends with John and Jay building a fort out of pillows because they're being like kids again for the ending. It's it's very much a fill-in one shot, right? It's not important. It's just a nice little like concept for an issue. And I enjoyed the interactions with Damian. I enjoyed some of the stuff with the characters interacting with John. But it definitely is a fill-in issue that's not important.
Yeah.
And obviously we're not super into the art, so that's also dragging it down a little bit.
Yeah, I do ultimately like the reason that that John was feeling that way, right? And it was he kind of made a wish, which is kind of the crux of the Shazam characters. That man, life sucks right now. It would be so much easier if I was a kid. And then it's almost like reverse big.
Yeah, he's feeling the pressure of like, I'm at the point where I'm moving in with a partner, and like I'm making these like life decisions that are all more difficult. Being a kid was much easier. It's kind of nice in concept, and I do think it's a solid idea for a single issue. It really is. But,
I want to know what the fuss with Rosa was at the beginning of her running into her old friend, because that's the kid's mom.
That's right. Yeah, there's a scene
and
at the
nothing
start.
is touched on that again.
That is kind of weird. It almost feels like that was something Josie Campbell said, "Hey, can you put this scene in because I want this set up for later." So maybe that is the one thing that's going to pop back up afterwards. Is Rosa runs into what Colleen was the name of the friend from school.
I think so.
Yeah. I bet she turns out to be a villain. That's my initial thoughts. Yeah.
Maybe. But
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see if Colleen ends up in a thing. The secret fourth Savannah or something. I don't know.
There is a bunch of them kids, as I learned last time from doing some research.
Lots of Savannahs running around. But no, it was nice to be reassured at the end of the book, though, that the main team is back next issue. Meaning Josie Campbell. So, fill-in issue, perfectly fine, perfectly nice, but definitely what it is. So, what are you giving Shazam?
Look, this is going to seem unfair to say, but because it's not bad, but it wasn't good, and I'm a gracious grader, so this is where my system gets me a lot. But I gotta give it like a 6.5.
I think that's fair. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's like it's decent. It's got some nice things in it, but ultimately it's whatever. I think I agree with that score. To be honest, I would say it's not quite into good, but it's nice. It's nice and pleasant.